You're listening to the Superpower Up podcast with your superpower experts. This is the place where we explore real-life superpowers and give you the tools to unlock your own.
Hello, everyone. This is Tonya Recla, your superpower expert, and I'm so excited to have with me today Janet Raftis, who's psychic, intuitive, healer, all that yummy goodness like mixed up in one. And she talks about pranic healing, matrix energy. So, all that fun stuff that we love to dive into here is Superpower Up and with the Superpower Expert. She works closely with Alicia Miller on retreats, and you've heard her interview on our show. And so she brings this really neat angle to things and she's open about it. I really love the fact that she's very, very present with her abilities and what she's capable of. And she doesn't shadow those for anybody. And so I appreciate people who are willing to step into that space and act as that model for others who, maybe thinking they're a little bit crazy to think that they talk to spirit and guides and angels and all this stuff. Just know that you're in good company here with this crowd. And so I'm excited for Janet to share with all of you her journey and how she got to be that confident in that space. So Janet, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Tonya. It's really great to be here with you.
Oh, I'm so excited. So we start off immediately, of course, asking you, what are your superpowers?
So I would say that the realm of energy is my superpower. And within that, definitely a superpower I have is psychic healing. I am a powerful energy healer. And as you mentioned, I've studied various modalities, but even more than the modalities that I've studied, I am intuitive and I'm able to connect with each individual's angels and guides and really get to the source of what's going on. I'm able to psychically see the root cause of issues that may be showing up either as physical symptoms or blocks or limiting beliefs, so forth and so on. So I can look in and actually see if there was a trauma that occurred, or if there was some other event that is operating, or if it was some sort of chronic stress that contributed to it, and then start shifting the energy and connect with guides so that the person's able to know because we're all unique individuals, what they need in order to heal for the best and highest good. And then with that, I'm able to open up and powerfully channel the healing energy of spirit. So
beautiful. And I love that, like, these words just kind of roll off your tongue. But I know that for a lot of people, the journey, even into considering themselves a healer, we're talking about being a psychic healer, even just saying that piece is sometimes a journey for people. And then we throw on top of it the components of like intuitive and psychic and all these other things. And it's like, how did you get to the place to where you were really confident just letting that stuff roll off your tongue?
Yeah. So it was a journey for sure. I've always been able to see energy my whole life. I could see energy. I didn't know what it was. I thought I was weird. I recognized that other people weren't seeing the same things I was seeing. And I shut it down for a long time. When it reopened, when all of my stuff, boom, activated, it was really intense. And at that time in my life, I was not brought up religiously or anything. So I sensed that there was something greater than myself, but I didn't really care about it for a long time, because I just wanted to be numb because it was too much. And so when it all activated, I was like, well, I'm doing this healing thing and I can feel the energy and I can see the energy, but I do not believe in angels. Angels are just stupid, blah, blah, blah. I was really a naysayer about it. And, my experience was that I was, in a session one day and I was like, oh my God, there's an angel here. And not only was there an angel there, but, I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt there was an angel there. I knew who it was. It was Archangel Michael. I knew why he was there and I knew how he was helping me. And I had a few more experiences like that because I was like, oh, I believe in angels now, but I don't believe in fairies. And then I had another similar experience. And at some point I recognized, I know, right? Sometimes I can be slow. Not only did I see fairies, but I realized they were all around me. That's another thing too. So what I realized was that the only limitations were the limitations I was placing on myself. Like, spirit is an infinite source of potential. Anything can exist. Anything. And when I place a limit on it, that's the only reason the limit exists, right? Because spirit can do anything. And so I think, at the time, my ex-husband at the time was teasing. I mean, he was not my ex at the time. But he was like, "Oh, you're a witch," and, blah, blah, blah. And he wasn't mean about it, but there was definitely this, like, discomfort with it in some ways, even though he was amazingly open to healing, to receiving it. And then other people, at the time, there was a lot of like, Reiki, what's that? Or what are you doing? That's weird. And I had to really get right with it. I mean, that was the thing that me doing my healing work, doing my emotional healing work, me being consistent in my practice and showing up every day and continuing to connect with my higher power and my higher self, all of that led me down this path of like really owning my gifts and owning what I can do and really recognizing that I'm not for everyone, right? There are people who are going to be like, she's a weirdo. Right? There just are. And they may or may not want to work with me or know me or whatever. And that's fine. But there are plenty of people who need what I have and who can benefit from what I can do for them and how I can support them and help them. And so I have to be vocal about it. I have to put it out there. Otherwise, they can't find me.
Yeah, I think there's this similar thread that kind of weaves throughout a lot of people's journeys, and it really is the idea that you're the only one stopping yourself. And when I got good with saying, 95% of the people I talk to aren't going to hear everything that I'm saying, at least at the level that I'm speaking it, and that's okay. And speaking for the 5%, and not watering that down, not stepping away from that space, because people are starving for that. And we're all here to help, our little kind of faction of the world. And that's okay. And recognizing that we only get that pushback and that resistance from people when we don't have conviction around it. And as soon as we step into conviction, it's like, oh, look at that. Like everybody else just kind of calms down, and I teach people that even internally, that we've got these, all these different aspects of ourselves that are dialoguing within us. And it's like, when you take that throne, when you really sit in your own self-dominion, everybody calms down, even all your own little fear pieces. And then we see that projected in the external environment. It's like nobody really ever cared or questioned you. Yeah. It was just, that you needed that. And I love the fact that you bring up your relationship, because that I don't know that I am vocal enough even about what a gift it was in my existence, that not only did my husband support what I was doing, but he was right there with me. He was channeling and he was doing this thing, and we were kind of fumbling through it together. Like, okay, well, at least if we're crazy together, Yes. And it was such a gift to have that, and I know how we contracted for that, especially where our daughter's concerned. But it was, it was kind of us against the world for a little bit there, because at least that's the projection that we created, and it helped. And so I think that what you speak is so valuable in the sense of, find those people who believe in you. During a time, you're reminding me, during a time of my coaching, I there were a lot of people I would say to them, don't, make sure that the people that you're surrounding yourself with, are magnifying your greatness, or modeling that, mirroring that for you, because there's so much of the other, so many things in our existence will make us question ourselves. Like, protect yourself, not protect in terms of like you need to fight, but give yourself that fighting chance of of that level of support. And that's a lot of what superpower experts exist to do. Because so many people don't have that in their own lives, or they don't see it yet in their own lives. I think we all have it. And so I appreciate that you're willing to be open about that. And so what did that separation look like as you came into more and more levels of awareness around it?
I would say that my journey, more than anything else, has been a journey of self-empowerment. And as I've gone through my journey of self-empowerment, things have either resonated more strongly with me, or the resonance between me and those things has dissipated. right? And so things have come in and out of my life, and people have come in and out of my life. And it really has all been a process. And now, I mean, of course, in the moment, it is challenging and it's hard. And sometimes you're kicking and screaming. So don't get me wrong. I have done the work around it and have felt the feelings around it. And I've been joyous and I've been rageful, depending on the circumstances and my level of pain at the time. Things don't, I'm much more resilient now than I used to be. But in this process, what I've really recognized is that it is resonance. It is resonance. It's vibrational resonance. And, sometimes we want to hold on to something that doesn't resonate anymore just because we're fearful, or it's customary, or it's habitual, or whatever it might be, right? And the more that I have learned to let go of that which is really truly no longer serving me, and just release the reins as lovingly as possible, if that is available, and then to embrace what is resonating for me, then the more I do that, the more beautiful my life is. It's really a dance, right? And the more gracefully I can dance through that.
Beautiful depiction. It's so I love the fact that you're using all that language, because we felt a huge shift when I added in the component of attuning people to individual resonance because when we started off, it was master your personal power and then hone your superpowers, like pretty easy, right? And what we found was that people weren't able to hold it. And so really attuning them to their resonance was such a powerful portion. And so the majority of the work that we do right now is in that attunement process, and continually helping people hold their own attunement and realize it for longer and longer stretches of time on their own, so they can move into that self-dominion. Because our bias is that you can't use your superpowers in the world if you can't do that. You may have blips of success with them, like you may get the psychic thing, or or the empathy thing, or whatever it might be that you're using. But you're not able to hold it and use it consistently and effectively in a large way until you can sit solidly, not only in that personal power space, but total self-dominion, in my opinion, includes that resonance piece and being able to maintain your own frequency no matter what the environment's doing. And I think a lot of people set out on this personal development journey thinking that they're going to somehow stop the chaos, that they're somehow going to control the external environment. And it's like, it's never going to happen. All you can do, well, it does actually happen, but only when you no longer need it to. Like, that's the irony. Like, once you've got all these pieces in place, everything calms down. Like, it's like you kind of get that people are experiencing chaos, but you don't really see it as that anymore. And so I love the fact that you were using all that. I want to move into a quick break, but before we do, where can people go to find out more about you?
So they can go to my website, which is janetraftis.com. And also for this group of listeners, I have a special gift, and that is at janetraftis.com /superpower up.
Perfect. Very cool. So we're talking with Janet Raftis. What is I just realized, what is the gift?
It is a free healing meditation. So it's a healing meditation that I channeled for a group that I channel for every week. And it is one that is for prosperity and the laws of reciprocity. So it's a healing meditation to help us find resonance with the law of reciprocity.
Beautiful. I love that. So we're talking with Janet Raftis about being a psychic healer. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Are you here to change the world? Do you talk about things like vibration, frequency, awakening, and consciousness? Are you pretty sure you have superpowers? The Superpower Net is unlike normal coaching programs and conscious communities. We provide training, intuitive guidance, peer-to-peer learning, intensive one-on-one coaching, and a high vibrational network of people just like you. When you join the net, you get 24/7 access to a collaborative group of people who support you as you master your personal power and unlock your superpowers. If you're ready to use your superpowers to change the world, then join the Superpower Net today. Visit superpowerexperts.com/thenet to learn more.
Awesome. We're back. We're talking with Janet Raftis on the Superpower Up podcast about being a psychic healer. And Janet, before the break, you just kind of casually threw out there, like all of a sudden, here's, Archangel Michael appears to you, and there's fairies all around you and everything else. A lot of us I know have had our experiences with that, and there's a lot of people sitting on that precipice of, they're kind of sensing it, kind of like you were, of course, the similarities are so beautiful. I came out of government and I was like, I'll deal with the queen archetype, but those goddesses, like, forget those, like, those are just woo woo, and it's, you just sit back and laugh at yourself over time. But let's dive a little bit into that, because I know that's challenging for people, because you do kind of do this like gut level check of like, am I crazy? Am I like, what's happening here? Yeah. Maybe you can share with people like maybe your experience, or give them some advice on how to step more wholly into that space.
Yeah. So I think the biggest and most important aspect of it is trusting your senses. And, truly over the course of our lifetimes, we have been taught to not trust our intuitive senses. We've been actually taught to ignore them. You're too sensitive. There's nothing there. You're imagining that. What are you worrying? It's societal. Even if it wasn't in our family of origin, it's societal. So I think the biggest part of this shift is like getting to that place of, I did experience something, and I'm just going to trust it. And if we can get to that place where we allow ourselves to kind of suspend ourselves in this place of possibility, well, what if it were real? And typically when something like this happens, my experience and the experience of thousands of people I've worked with is that there's some sort of, again, going back to the word resonance, right? There's some sort of resonance. When Archangel Michael was there, that was a very powerful one for me. I knew he was there. I knew it, and my psychic senses told me he was there. So I was able to embrace it very easily. But there are more subtle times, even with psychic information, where you're like, is that real? Well, the way I suggest, and what works so beautifully for me, is that our body will tell us the truth. Like, our mind will make up stories, right? Our mind will say, that can't be true. You're making this up. That's stupid. Who is going to believe that, right? The mind will tell these things because our ego wants to protect us. And our ego is scared that if we say these things, people are going to think we're crazy. So it will put up these barriers for us, but our body will tell us the truth. So, I think most of us have probably had the experience of feeling chills or a wave of heat or a flash or something like that. Our body, those resonances are the way that the vibrations are interacting with our body, and it's sharing with us an aspect of truth. There's a resonance there that what you are experiencing is true to you. And so if you have this sense of like, I think there's something there, or I'm having an experience, try to drop out of your head and into your body and listen to what your body is saying. Are my hairs standing up our end? Do I feel a chill? Am I getting angels? A lot of times bring heat with them. Like when there are a lot of angels in the room, my temperature goes up about 30 degrees.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So it's, paying attention to what's happening in your body. But what will happen typically, if it's truth, if it's a true thing, is that you'll have some sort of resonance or expansion energy. You'll feel open.
Okay, wait. I want to go back to that. I'm sorry. So okay, yes, open. But my mind just went. So do you find that consistent? Because my experience with other entities and stuff, I don't deal a lot with the angelic realm, but my experience with other entities is cold.
Cooling.
It's like the higher frequencies are like freezing, and so it was interesting that you talked about heat. Do you find that like with your clients and stuff, or anybody that you guide into that spaces that the angelic realm brings heat, or is that more an individual sign for you?
I know that so I will say too, that a lot of the other spirit beings bring with them coolness for me. Some of them bring heat as well. And with the angelic realm, I think it's also individual. I know of some other people who feel heat with angels, especially the archangels. Not so much your regular angels, I guess, with quotation marks. But, like we can going back to goddesses and what you were talking about. Some goddesses I feel is cool. Some I feel is hot. If Kali comes into the room, it is like burning up. Yeah, even right now, as I talk about her, I'm getting hot.
Yeah, I can feel that. Yeah, that's what I was sensing with the archangels too. As soon as you started talking about it, I'm going to have to play with that. I never paid attention. I didn't think about it. So Okay, very cool. You were talking about expansion, openness, and I interrupted you, but I was like, whoa, what did she just say?
Yeah,
I
no
like
worries.
it.
I think too, recognizing too that we will all have our own unique experience, right? And so, and everybody will interact differently with every vibration. I think that there tend to be trends, right? But even there are always exceptions to the trend. And so going into like, for me, if I feel that heat, then I know something's going on, you know? And so for me, that's a truth for me. Sometimes I'll feel the heat before and I can go, okay, what is it? I'm getting really hot. It's not a hot flash. I'm not there yet. You know, what's going on?
You're like, let's just be clear.
So I can play with it. And so just recognizing what my different resonances are and what I have learned by teaching others how to tune into their intuition is that other people feel things differently. My current partner, he gets like, when I feel a yes in my body, like, yes, this is a good thing. My intuitive yes is a heart expansion. I feel myself opening up in my chest. He feels it in his arms. His arms light up. Completely different than mine. But the answer is really the same. It's saying, yes, this is a vibrational resonance. That means it's true to you.
Yeah, I really struggled with that early on with the SP model because it is so individualistic. And at some point, it's like we have to start building some sort of constructs and saying, look, this is a possibility. This is because what I found was people were getting way too overwhelmed with the ambiguity. And so it's, you know, and I really, really like God and I had some serious talks about this because I was like, how do I know? Like I didn't have a practitioner. I didn't have a guru. I didn't have anybody to follow. I didn't study modalities. Like it literally was just him and I, you know, that was it for all of it. And it was like, and then he's like, yeah, go teach this. I'm like, okay, easy for you to say, but you know, my journey, like I can't say that anybody's going to have the same journey I did, or even any similarities or anything. And so, and we're dealing with things that are so expansive and conceptual. And then even just narrowing them into thoughts and then re-narrowing them into words, in my opinion, kind of bastardizes the whole process. And so it's like, how do you maintain the purity of experience and getting in touch with yourself and also guide people? Like we have to guide people. And so it's like, you know, that was really a balance. And for me, it was like, I just do everything I can to stay in integrity with it. And I find that we have a huge need right now for people who can step into someone else's space and help illuminate it from their resonance, from their perspective, from their work, because otherwise we're overlaying it with this, well, here's step 1, 2, and 3 of how to develop your psychic ability. And it's like, there's too much variability in that. And so it's really, well, on one level, it's super fascinating and I enjoy the journey and it keeps me entertained. And on the other, it's like, gosh, it'd be nice if it was just like math, you know?
Right.
And it's just not.
It's just not. It's absolutely not. Yeah. Because it's all really, when we talk about how we interact with energy, right? No matter, regardless of whether it's healing or sensing into an angel or seeing, having psychic vision or hearing something psychically, it's how we're like tuning forks, right? And so it's how we translate that vibration. And we might translate it sometimes with words. We might translate it with a paintbrush. We might translate it with a guitar. We might translate it with a sensation. We might feel it. I mean, and like you said, every single person on this planet that ever has been and ever will be is unique. So how can you pigeonhole it? And that's something that I found very frustrating for me as well when I first started this, because I was in a place too where I ultimately found a mentor, but initially I didn't have one and was living in a small town in Costa Rica. And I was really fumbling through it. And I was like, well, I'm not psychic because I don't see things. I'm not having like psychic visions. And I wasn't at first. What I realized through my experiences was that I was translating psychic vibrations through other senses without realizing it. I was highly clairaudient, highly claircognizant, highly clairsentient, highly empathic. I was getting information in every single way, except for that I wasn't like seeing something when I closed my eyes. And so what happened was when I realized, oh, wait a minute, this is how I'm translating the information. And I relaxed around it and I opened around it. Well, eventually, and you alluded to this earlier too, is like eventually once I relaxed around it, the psychic visioning came. I see things all the time now. But when I was
we get that a lot. We have a lot of misconceptions about what this is going to look like. And we can thank, Hollywood and some very vocal, gifted people for this. And what I find, I had a very similar experience because my knowingness is just knowingness. Like I just know. And it took me quite a long time. People are like, did you always know this stuff? I was like, no, I just thought I was freaking smart. Like I had no idea, that's what people told me. Like, you're just brilliant. And I'm like, cool. So I always thought it was my mind.
Yeah.
And of course there's, we can have great fun with that from an ego perspective, awesome. I was brilliant, but it really wasn't that helpful at a certain point in time.
Right.
Because I needed to get in touch with some other aspect of me. And I had the same thing. I wasn't seeing things or hearing things at the time. And I didn't trust it in that regard. And a lot of people like the sensationalism of seeing visions and talking to dead people or whatever the case may be. But really our gifts really do show up differently. And that's again, a big point of superpower experts is to empower people to say, this is how my gifts show up. And of course, those other, we all have access to all of the superpowers. It's just, we're predisposed to certain ones.
Yeah.
And we advise people like, work with what you got first.
Yep.
And save yourself the heartache and then try to implement these others. Cause we can borrow from each other. I've been calling it drifting. Like we can drift off each other in a really beautiful way, but we have to first get that we have what we have for a reason.
Yeah.
And I look at it on the guiding people kind of side of the house as clues. I'm like, look, these are giving you clues about who you can help, how you're going to help them, what you're here to do. It's like we all kind of divvied up all the social ills before we incarnated, and you've got your piece. Like, do your piece, and for sure you can go and talk to angels and do whatever the heck else you want to do. But usually not until you've come to grips with the fact that you have specific gifts for a reason.
Right. I love the way you describe it too, that drifting, because that is what happens. It's like eventually when you're utilizing what your strengths are, right? Eventually it allows the other details to fill in. I don't even know when I started seeing things. It just happened. And I was like, oh, I'm seeing things. Oh, this has been happening for a while.
Oh yeah. I didn't have that experience at all. For me, it was such a jarring situation because I didn't see, and then, my husband was in Afghanistan, and our daughter, she was 1.5, 2 at the time. And she, it was always very obvious with her that there was something going on there. And she, it was a friend of ours that looked at me at one point and he goes, do you see what you're doing to your daughter? And I'm like, excuse me? Like, what are you talking about? And she had been, and over time had been developing a real sensitivity to sounds and like mommy, it's too loud, and then and like kind of cowering in the corner, like make these things go away. And I was like, well, what are you talking about? He goes, you are in fear of these things coming to you, so they're coming to her. And I was like, what? Like,
right.
Wow. I was like, all the mommy guilt like comes right to the surface, right? I'm like, oh crap, all right, that's not acceptable. So that night I sat on the corner of the bed, and of course, like my husband's always seen things, and so like that's his department, right? But he wasn't there. Ironically, right? Like, coincidence. And so I'm sitting on the bed by myself going, okay, fine. Like something can appear to me. One thing can appear to me, because I felt like all of a sudden the energy got really excited around me. And I was like, okay, no. One, go easy on me. Like just one of you, like choose amongst yourselves. Like, I don't really care. And I just sat there, like kind of with my one eye squinted shut, like, ah, shit, what am I doing? And sure enough, the energy in front of me started to get wavy, and it was like, and I could feel my mind like abort,
Yeah.
And I just watched as this ancient dragon appeared in front of me and just kind of bowed its head to me, and I was like, oh my gosh, what's going on here?
Beautiful.
And it just kind of dissipated. It was very gentle and loving, but huge and powerful, and everything around me got all excited. It's like, she sees it. I was like, no, one. I said one. That's enough. Thanks. I'm good. Like, let me sit with this. Yeah, it was not like, there's the angels. Here's this dragon. It was really, I had to really gear up for that. And, and of course, purposefully, I only did that for her, of course I had to have that kind of catalyst, because it wasn't going to happen otherwise, so, that was not my experience with it.
Yeah, it's great too for us to illustrate that we had two very different experiences.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's telling too, again, looking at the clues, like I'm a very for people to work with me, it's like they have to be ready to work with me. It's not it's not for the faint of heart. Certainly I love and support them in that process, but it's not gentle. Like for most people who find me, like they need to go jump off a cliff. And, and what I feel from you and so many others that are attracted to the show is like this real loving, like gentleness. It's like, let me hold that space for you. And that's, that really is a big motivating factor for superpower experts, because I think that at different times people need different things. And what I was finding is that they were having to flit about to all these different places to get that. And, when I was being honest, it was like I was limited in my ability to do that with people. One, just straight intolerance for anything that was like taking a long time to unfold, or resistance within people. But also that just being in that loving space and holding that for people, it just wasn't, my thing. I can squeeze myself into that box, but why would I, when all of these amazing people can do it differently? And so I really feel that from you, where you can hold that space for people, and really that healing, loving energy, I think is so important. And I honor the fact that you had the courage to step into it.
Thank you. Yeah. And as you're saying, there's a need for both and everything in between and beyond, right? So.
It is. And I really, for those of you listening, I know that a lot of you have been listening for a while, and I really honor that in you. And let me just say, like, the world needs you, however that's showing up for you. We're hungry for that. We need that. Like, even no matter how much each of us progresses, like everybody holds a piece, this is like a huge mosaic, and everybody holds a piece. And it's like the piece that you hold, I can't hold. I don't hold it. Certainly I can try, and I might do an okay job at it, but not as well as you're going to do with it. And we need those people who have the courage to step into that and really own it and walk that journey beside us. And so we can drift off each other. It's such a fun concept when you start playing with it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, beautiful. Well, this has been such a fantastic conversation. I've really enjoyed it. We've been talking with Janet Raftis about being a psychic healer. Are there any little tidbits that you want to leave folks with before we have to sign off?
Just speaking to what you were just saying is that, the world needs all of us to be stepping into our superpowers right now and really trusting the gifts that we have within us. And so, whatever it is that each of you has, like, that's such a beautiful, brilliant, divinely granted gift from God, from your higher self, and it's yours, and I my wish for everyone is that, we're all able to bring our gifts into the world. And so, Tonya, I'm so grateful that you had me here. It was a beautiful conversation. And I hope that, anyone that feels called, that, you check out the healing that I'm sharing with you, and that it supports you in whatever way is best for you.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for sharing that with everybody. And let's remind people again where they can go and find that.
Yes, that is at janetraftis.com/superpowerup.
Beautiful. Well, thank you, Janet, so much for being on the show today with us. And we appreciate the work that you're doing in the world, and, how you're holding that space for people. So thank you.
Thank you, Tonya. It's really great to be here.
Awesome. And to all of you out there, as always, we appreciate your loyalty. So until next time, go out, uncover your superpowers, and change the world. Take care, everyone.
Are you ready to discover your superpowers? Go now to superpowerexperts.com and discover your superpowers today.